Greetings everyone. My name is Kurt Larenby Rosales, and we're here, the group JKL from 3ITA, to present our presentation for the group assessment number 3 in CCS 109. So I'm joined with Salcedo Jomrich Jovin and Samaniego Leonard Andre R. So for the first question, why is it important to use system analysis and design methodologies when building a system? So when it comes to system analysis and design methodologies, they provide essential processes which ensures the system is built correctly and of course meets standards. They offer an organized, structured, and balanced framework which in turn enhances the system's effectiveness, reliability, and compatibility. And in turn, this can be in line with the organizational goals. And why is it important to also use methodologies as a communication tool? It's because it can serve as a bridge between the technical experts and non-technical stakeholders. So it also offers tools like diagrams, models, and structured documentation to help better understand or to help the understanding easier for everyone in the using of the systems. And of course, in turn, it serves as a efficient or effective communication tool. Now, why not just build the system in whatever way seems to be quick and easy? Well, first of all, as the name suggests, building the system in a quick and easy way can be, well, convenient. However, it can pose some risks which in turn can be detrimental to the system that you are building. So when it's say quick and easy, it's as the name suggests, quick and easy. So we can bypass like certain processes that might be essential in building the system, which of course affects the system's performance and reliability. So basically you're just building the system just for the sake of building something, just for the sake of it to be built. So one, we are losing the clarity and specification of requirements if we go to the quick and easy route. So when it comes to clarity and specification of requirements, of course that is among the most important of the aspects that are need to be considered in building a system. So without clarification or the specification of the requirements, you your system has no way to go, is nowhere to go. So it's because the requirements by the clients are the direction. It provides direction for where your system is going for. So it provides the scope, the boundaries, what your system will bring and will not bring or will offer. So basically, it the requirements are the client's needs and what can be accomplished by the developers. And number two, we lose the risk management. So of course, while building the system, there may be some aspects that can pose risks that we can overlook, that we might have overlooked rather. So when it comes to risk management, of course, we are assessing the risks during the process and even after testing the system. So we assess the risks and of course provide solution for it to be minimized or to be avoided or to be of course enhanced within the system. However, when we take the quick and easy route, we can lose the ability to manage the risks since we're just quickly building the system for the sake of building something, not really for the quality, for the assurance, for the reliability and maintainability of the system. Which brings us to the number three, which is the scalability and maintainability. So when it comes to scalability, it's the ability of the system to be expanded, to be maximized further than its an original state. So And maintainability, of course, it's still, in other words, it's the longevity of the system. So when we take the quick and easy route in building the system, we lose the ability to assess its scalability. So we don't know if we can integrate these the system that we built into other systems and expand its features, uh, and of course maximize it. We are not sure of that because we took the quick and easy route. And when it comes to maintainability, we are also not assessing its longevity. What if the system itself is not for the long run? It's not tested or it's not recommended for the long run because you did not assess its maintainability. When we assess its maintainability by not taking the quick and easy route, we can have an assurance that the system can have a longer lifespan. So we are not going to be worried about the system being deteriorating, the system having its features deteriorate or decline as time goes by. So next is what value is provided by using an engineering approach. So what is engineering approach? First of all, it's an approach or methodology that includes multiple testing levels such as unit testing, integration testing, user acceptance testing. So basically a lot of let's say quality assurance testing of the system in other terms. So of course, without it, without the systematic approach, errors may go unnoticed, just like what I've said earlier. A lot of mistakes, risks, and um, factors that may affect the system in the long run will not be assessed and may go unnoticed until after the system is deployed. And then again, when it is deployed and you only just notice the errors, the risks, and all of that aspect of the system, negative aspect of the system, it can cause disruptions to organizational operations. So it's important that we do not take the quick and easy approach when it comes to building a system. It's important to take necessary methodologies or approaches in order for us to better understand what the user requirements are, how can we integrate that into the system, and how can we build the system itself. And of course, assess its risks and have its scalability and maintainability observed. And uh, build an efficient, effective, and reliable system for our clients.
Dangal greetings everyone. Dangal greetings sir. My name is Jomich Joben Salcedo and I'm going to discuss the how might prototyping be used as part of the SDLC. To explain this, the Software Development Lifecycle or the SDLC is a structured framework for creating software, moving through stages such as planning, analysis, design, coding, testing, deployment, and maintenance. Prototyping can be integrated into this process to address unclear or involving requirements. A prototype is a clear, simpler version of a system that allows both developers and users to visualize and interact with the concept before full-scale development begins. This approach is most valuable during the requirements, design, and validation stages, where it can take the form of low-fidelity sketches or high-fidelity working demos. Different prototyping methods: throw away, evolutionary, incremental, and extreme offer flexibility depending on the project needs. The benefits including more accurate requirements, early detection of design flaws, stronger user engagement, and reduced risk of expensive post-launch changes. However, challenges such as scope creep, extended timelines, and use misconceptions must be managed. Best practices involve setting clear objectives, limiting iteration, involving stakeholders early, document, documenting all changes, selecting appropriate tools, and ensure a smooth transition from prototype to final design. For example, in developing a university e-learning platform, prototyping transformed vague requests into a refined, approved design, cutting post-launch changes by 40% and boosting satisfaction. And overall, prototyping strengthen the SDLC by making abstract ideas concrete, improving communication, and delivering a higher quality of software.
Technical greetings everyone. My name is Leonard Andre Arsamaniego and I'll be discussing the number 3 question of the group assessment task 3. So, university description as a system. University of Cabuyao or PNC can be comprehensively described as a dynamic, open system designed to transform inputs into outputs that fulfills its core mission and vision. So, what does the dynamic and the open system mean here? So, it means that uh, the University of Cabuyao or PNC isn't just a building or an infrastructure, but rather a way for transforming students. And next is the system's ultimate purpose is to be a premier engine for community and national development by creating globally competitive, value-laden professionals and leaders. So, in our university, it transformed our potential into something incredible, which is the output. And that output isn't just about diploma, but rather it's about transforming students into a globally competitive professionals, and it's about being molded into value-laden leaders with integrity, compassion, and sense of responsibility. So now for the use case story. So we choose a specific use case story which is about submission of assignment. So for the preconditions, the student is logged into the university portal and is enrolled in at least one course with an active assignment deadline. So for the main flow, the student navigates to the course page and selects the assignment submission section. Number 2, the system displays a list of pending assignments with their respective due dates and submission status. Number 3, the student selects the specific assignment they want to submit. Number 4, the system presents the assignment details including instructions, rubric, maximum file size, and accepted file formats. So for the number 5, the student clicks the upload button and selects the assignment file from their device. Number 6, the system validates the file format and size against the assignment requirements. Number 7, the student clicks the submit button to finalize the submission. And then, the system records the submission timestamp and generates a unique submission ID. Number 9, the system displays confirmation message showing the submission ID and timestamp. Number 10, the system updates the assignment status to submitted in the student's assignments list. And lastly, the system notifies the course instructor that a new assignment has been submitted. So for the post conditions, the assignment is successfully submitted before the deadline, and the student receives a submission confirmation, and the instructor is notified of the new submission for grading. So now this is our use case diagram for our use case story. So here we have two actors. The primary one is the student and the secondary actor is the instructor. So first for the student, the logical flow for the student's perspective is as follows. So first, the student finds an assignment. So the student needs to see a list of assignments that are open for submission. Number 2, and then, so it is the assignment details such as the deadline, the instructions, the rubrics, and etc. And then we have the preparation and selecting of the submission. So select assignment. So the student chooses which assignment they are submitting to, and then validate file. So before uploading, the system checks if the file meets the criteria, like whether the file is in correct format, the size is within the limits. So this is a system level validation. And then now we will proceed to the execute the submission. So first is upload file. So student must select their file and initiates the upload process to the server, and then the system saves crucial information like the timestamp of the submission, which file was uploaded, and which student uploaded it. And then after the submission, system changes the status of the assignment for a specific student from not submitted to submitted. And then it will go now to the finalization and confirmation. So it and then it notifies the instructor. So the system sends a notification, maybe via email or dashboard alert, to the instructor, informing them that a new submission has been made. And then finally, the system shows a success message or a confirmation page to the student, assuring that their assignment was committed correctly.